way, hold on, there it is. Along that way, let's take a look at some of the elements that we would want to change in the long run. The legacy genes, we would want replaceable genes. Our current body, our biological body wears out, so we'd want one that doesn't wear out, that upgrades, that changes. Of course, here's gender restricted, we'd want gender changeability, a sense of humanity versus an enlightened transhumanity or an enlightened global consciousness, whatever your belief system is. But the issue here is showing what the human has from this perspective and then what a future post-human could have with all the different type of upgrades. The only area here that is actually DIY is brain plasticity. It's you sitting in the audience and me standing here and explaining what this could be, and you looking at it as a probability, a possibility, an option, but not going, oh no, that can't possibly work. Because no matter what it is anyone tells you, whether it's right or wrong, or feasible or infeasible, it's your ability to imagine it and to go into that experience and go, well, this is something that I'll investigate. So all we can do right now is have more plasticity. Andrew Sandberg used the same image in his presentation. It's one of my favorite images. It's the internet. And that shows the connectivity of the extension. So we are not simply in our biological bodies right now with one identity. We now have multiple identities in multiple substrates and multiple times. So one thing that we can DIY right now is to experience and explore having multiple personalities in, say, Second Life, different metaverse environments, and real time if you choose. But again, this is still part of the brain plasticity. Now getting down to the wet matter or moist matter of the issue is how to frame the plasticity in the practice. And I think that the best way to look at it is an epicoplasticity, where the sciences and technologies that we do use in enhancing ourselves at this point in time, or at least that we can think about, are ones that have been researched fairly well and that we kind of have a feeling of what's going to go on based on all the research done and what bibliographies and references are available to us today. I call the most interesting area of this is the automorphic era, where we're automorphing ourselves, and I think that ties in quite nicely with DIY enhancement, and I think it ties in quite nicely with the second-order cybernetics. This particular image shows a far future of what could happen maybe in 20, 50, 70 years from now, but it also shows some elements that are continually happening for the past number of years. For example, we can check out our genomics. We can have our genome sequenced to find out if we're carriers of certain disease. It may cost a pretty penny, but it's something that we can do. We can start taking a look at a social order of where we fit in this system of enhancing ourselves and what some of the reverberations will be in other areas, and that's part of the social ecology. So we have the brain, the body, the social ecology, and they fit very neatly into maybe 3 eras: the static era of being exclusively biological, the elastic era of starting to become more cyberized or more transhuman in scope with prosthetics and different changes to our bodies, and a third area of automorphic, where we really change and use lots of prostheses or coexist in different environments such as the metaverse or more sophisticated environments. When we start enhancing ourselves, we're competitive as humans, but we may start competing more with ourselves than with each other. For example, we may be competing with our genetic makeup, and that is kind of a paradigm shift in our thinking about a human-centric universe where we were the center of the universe, we're the center of our world around us, but when we start splitting personalities and become more than one self, multiple selves, then we start understanding that there's more than one of us and more than one of you, so this edge or a field that we put around ourselves starts diminishing. The areas that are very important within that regard are heredity, reproduction, and germline, cognitive, and somatic enhancements. And it will bring about a view of what a new normal could be, what the new normalcy or normality would be within each human, and how we view our lives and the way we look at what is normal. Since we usually do categorize people as being abled or disabled, diseased or healthy, fit, and we might start questioning, what is the physical fitness of our human species? Are we, am I physically fit? Well, what is a fit species? So all advances are leading toward competing with our own selves, our inherited genetic makeup, and designing feasible new selves. Ultimately, design will be about distributed existence and new meanings of life and death. How could we not have new meanings of life and death? If we are to extend life, and if we are to coexist in numerous different substrates, we might want to take a look at what is life, what does it mean, and what types of new deaths could there be. There's been a number of different writings on maybe partial death, a death you come back from, maybe cryonic suspension, etc. So I'm going to go to the impact of DIY right now, because I think that what we need to focus on right here is what you can do right now yourself in DIY enhancement. The best approach is possibly being strategic about it, being your own strategist, and think about the brain, the body, your behavior, and the social ecology, and take a look at identifying what particular problems you have with your own body. Maybe what age are you in, if you're a child reaching menopause, if you're an adult going through reproduction issues, or if you're a woman or man going through testosterone or menopause or andropause. So you want to think about what your body's doing. You want to know how athletic you are, or how disciplined you are in focusing on refreshing your brain plasticity, for example. So you want to sketch out what your strategy is in identifying problems, defining the problems, determining a preferred state that you want to be at your particular age, in your particular environment, and how you see yourself as far as the record of what the mean or the new norm is, not the old norm. We want to play with the new norm here. So a plan of action is necessary if we want to be alive long enough to actually enjoy some of the new science and technologies, the NBIC+ that could come about in the next decade, so forth. One way to consider this is through a process I call self-tracking, where we take a look at how our health has been through the years of our lives. I've always been a sickly child. I've had cancer twice, unable to get pregnant, been through many different things, but I'm very, very healthy. In fact, when I go to the doctor, my age is usually considered 10 to 20 years younger than I am. However, I have neurological problems, so my age and my neurosensory capabilities may be older. So we have to look at ourselves not as this human in this physiology, with this body and this thinking apparatus. We need to look at what is the range for yourself and your time frame with your experiences and your genetic makeup, the inherited genes that you could have that cause disease, and if you have a propensity for any type of disease or situation, maybe if you're an avid downhill skier like I am, be careful about how skiing. We were ice skating recently, I fell down and hurt my spine. I should have worn a padding back there. So know where your vulnerability is within your body, and that's the best way that you can help DIY yourself right now. This is an image I want to show you. This is an art project I did, which was made into a film and showed at the Russian, the Moscow Film Festival. I think it was in last year, 2009. So here on the left you see my bone density. Well, I'm 60, but my bone density came out as a 40-year-old. When I was in my 40s, my bone density came out as a 30-year-old. So even though I've had a little bit of osteoporosis, I did take the medication to stop the bone decline, and I did increase bone mass on one side of my hip. So I'm pretty much okay, but I have to be aware of it. On the far right, you see me going through some neuroscanning. I've had vertigo. And it's a very frightening thing to have. And we don't know why I've had it a few times, but there is some kind of neurological problem going on. So we're still testing it, but it's interesting because I've developed a ringing in my right ear, and I do have cervical spine spurs, which could be causing that effect. But all this is causing a balance issue.